correct. That's correct.
The album Bounce House. That's the Curls.
Love the Curls.
Like a Fool. Song's called Like a Fool.
Hey, man, they got a great keyboardist.
I know.
And
it's Mick Fansler's wife.
There you go.
And now I can't remember her name, so now I look like a jerk.
Oh, then what's the shoes on the other foot? Ben, what'd you think of Trump's speech? Well, I didn't watch it, but I'll answer the question anyway. Habba.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Happy Friday. Yeah, we're back on YouTube today.
Mm-hmm. Yo.
Oh, Ben is apparently happy about that.
Oh, I thank the Lord for the night time.
Hey, now, quit doing the song of the day before we get to the song of the day, please.
Something about the Curls made me think of Neil Diamond. I don't know why.
Really? You should tell Mick Fansler that. You should send him a text that. He'd like it. Millennials love Neil Diamond. I don't know what it is.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not, actually. I'm really not. I promise you I'm not.
I can't even get the words out. Is that for real?
Yeah, that is for real. I think the movie Saving Silverman had something to do with it. I don't know. But anyway.
By the way, what a great movie. Can we just spend... I mean, all hell is breaking loose. The world as we know is coming. Can we talk about Saving Silverman?
Oh, Michael. Shout out to Michael. What's up, buddy? He says it sounds like Talking Heads. You love Talking Heads, right, Ben? It was after 1970.
I like the one song where they had the guy, it's live. How does it go? That's not my wife. There's water underground.
Please keep listening. We're going to start the show now.
I don't like Talking Heads. Are you kidding?
We're going to start the show now, guys. Your Ben Joravsky show for Friday, March 13th is just moments away. But before we get into this, we got to thank the following unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this program. Unions like the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 in District 8. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9 are sponsors, as well as the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. Giant thank you to those unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this program. And, of course, today's Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Ben Joravsky, sir, we need a song of the day.
All right.
I've already sang 2 of them.
Should I just do a repeat? It's encore time. The crowd. Yeah.
I don't really think there's rules to this, by the way.
I'll take the low for the night time. G. Forget the day. D. Thank you, Mick Fansler.
The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Friday, March 13th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, it's another Rummana Rundown with Chicago Sun-Times editor Rummana Hussain. We welcome State Rep candidate Nydia Carranza and the long-awaited return of the director of the Black Harvest Film Festival, the one, the only, Sergio Mims. And now your host, yes, the one and only,
Hello, everybody.
Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Sorry, man. I just got into it so much. Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Cool, Calm, Collected Friday. And here's why. Because that's what I am, everybody. I'm cool. I'm calm. And I'm collected. By the way, can I just say something? I love that new opening. We had to drop the old one, as we like to say.
Okay, well, we're still going to play the old one.
What?
From the one that we were playing as far as a week ago?
Yeah.
The one that Michael sent us?
Hold on, I need reefer now. Wait.
There's so many intros that we've had.
Time out. I'm talking about the old one that we
Okay.
had to drop because of the cease and desist letter, which may or may not have applied to what I understand.
Yeah.
But I just love that.
We all know how it goes. We got an email, actually, from the fellow who made the last intro that we had, Michael.
Okay.
And he was upset that we're not using his song as the intro. Michael, dude, I'm still using your song as when we come back from breaks.
Yes.
Turns out that song that you just heard there has a lot of funk.
Yeah.
And Ben is funky.
I'm stuck in the 70s, Michael. Just bear with me. Anyway, in addition to being stuck in the 70s, I am cool, calm, and collected. Yes.
That's correct.
Everybody around me is losing their mind over the coronavirus, but not me, D. Watch this. Quick in the draw. Oop. But unfortunately, I shoot with this hand. Sorry, that's a really bad joke from Blazing Saddles, a movie from the 1970s, which, by the way, none of our the people who listen to us on podcasts will get because it's a visual. All right, one hand is steady, the other hand is shaking. Anyway,
I love how you're admitting it's an awful bit that you're doing right now.
I'm full of off. Oh my God, yesterday's. well, let's not give away too many secrets on the Ben Joravsky Show. Yes, indeed, everybody's losing their mind, and folks, I'm losing my mind as well. I'm so worried. I'm not going to pretend it's any other way. I'm worried like everybody else. I'm going to get coronavirus. I'm washing my hands constantly. I'm lathering it up with the hand sanitizer. Miles was so great. He came today. And he brought extra wipes, and I wanted to give a shout out to Deb.
What up, Deb?
What up, Deb? That's Miles' mom, my dear friend Deb, and she made sure that Miles brought. God bless you, Deb. My wife and Deb were sort of cut from the same cloth, Miles, as you know. My wife had said, bring the spray. You got to bring the spray. D, I forgot the spray at home.
I'm not surprised at all.
So anyway, God bless you, Deb. We're rubbing down everything, okay? Scrubbing and rubbing and doing our best.
Scrubbing and rubbing here on the Ben Joravsky Show.
Some good news here at the Sun-Times. The reporters and the editors are back. Folks who listened to the show yesterday knew that we were pretty much alone in the building because they were doing a test run, right, D? The reporters and editors were putting out the paper from their homes. We're going to have Rummana Hussain coming in and talk about that, putting out a newspaper from your house. Anyway, they're back today. It was a test run and it worked. But apparently, I guess next week they're going to go back to doing it from their homes until we get a little more clarity on the coronavirus and how dangerous it is. So so I welcome them back to the building that I share with them. D, if push came to shove, we would do our show on the road. I want to tell everybody that we have the equipment to do a remote, probably from my home in my room that overlooks the train and the alley where we can see all the teenagers smoking a reefer.
And Dennis, occasionally.
So Dennis is like, I can't take another minute. I need a break.
I'll be right back, Ben. Don't look out the window.
I look out the garbage can. Whoa, is that Dr. D with a bong? Anyway, no, it wouldn't be a bong. It'd just be like a cigarette. But so anyway, we could take our show on the road, and I don't know. We'll see. I've got guests booked for the next 2 weeks to come into the studio, so we'll just winging it pretty much like the rest of the world when we deal with coronavirus. I thought, so much scary news. I'd take a break from it for the moment, D, and concentrate on local elections. On Tuesday, there will be elections. It's kind of like been overwhelmed by all the other news in the world, the impending breakdown of civilization as we know it. But yes, we do have a Democratic primary on Tuesday, March 17th. I intend to vote. But who knows, D? By Monday, they could have that canceled. You never know. But I think I saw, before I came in the studio, that Louisiana had postponed its primary. So who knows? But right at the moment, we're still having an election, and I plan to vote. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you my predictions. How about that? Take these predictions to Vegas, make some money.
Don't, guys. You will be broke.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. But here's the first thing. What you probably should do in any election, if you want to make money off of it, see who I'm voting for and then bet on the person who's running against them. Because generally, D, I'm for the person who's a little to the left of center. All right? And more often than not, those are the people who don't win. So let's start with president. We're down to 2. Bernie Sanders versus Joe Biden. As we all know, I've been doing my rankings. Remember I used to start off, you had to name 5, and I love watching our guests duck and dive and, weave and bob. And I don't know. Remember the one who goes, Bernie. Oh, what a duck and a dodge for cry Pete. Come on. You can do it. Anyway, so for a while I was, Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, Andrew Yang. For a while, Kamala Harris was in the... Anyway, we're down to 2. So it's Bernie versus Joey B. My number 1 choice? Bernie. Who else, D, right? Nothing's changed. Been number 1 since we started this. Come on, let's take a moment to give some credit to Bernie Sanders. He's freaking dragged the Democratic Party till I pushed and shoved. Come on, you guys. And the Democrats are like, we don't want to do it. We don't want to go left. We want to go right and worry about swing voters in Virginia. Nope, you're going to go left. So God bless you, Bernie Sanders. So he's my number 1, and Joey B is my number 2. And there is no number 3. I know you're a huge Tulsi Gabbard fan, and D, but I can't even put her on the list. She's not really running. So anyway, that's my top 2. And I predict, unfortunately for me, that Joey B will be victorious on Tuesday in the Illinois primary. It's pretty obvious to me, we've been talking about it all week, that the Democratic voters are consolidating around Joe Biden because he is in their minds, the candidate best suited to defeat Donald Trump. As Bernie says it. I, Bernie Sanders, paraphrasing him here, won the battle of ideas in this campaign, but it looks as though Joe Biden is winning the battle of electability. So I predict that Joe Biden will be victorious. I also predict that Donald John Trump will not be victorious. His performance is so wretched in the case of this catastrophe that I don't know how any sane American can vote for him for president. And I just say that, well, he'll get a lot of votes of people who have lost their freaking mind. So that's how I view the presidential race. In the state's attorney race, I will do my top 4, right? 4 candidates in the Democratic primary.
All right.
I am a Democrat. Do you want me to go from 4 to 1 or 1 to 4? You call it, D.
Let's go 4 to 1. Let's keep these listeners, listening. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Give away number 1 and they'll tune out.
Yep. That's that radio. He's good.
You'd be screwed without me, pal.
Oh, that's for sure. D.
Hey, what are these on our head right now?
Hubcaps.
Okay. Called cans. You're embarrassing us, buddy.
Hubcaps. Even I don't know where that came from. All right, number 4. Bill the Bro Conway, okay?
All the way at number 4?
Remember, there's 4 candidates, and he's number 4.
Oh, my.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm having a hard time with it. I know there's a lot of Conway supporters out there, and you guys love him.
Number 4.
Love his commercials. You love his haircut. You just think he's like a lot of people. I live on the north side, of Chicago, and there's a lot. I've noticed that like people who like Mayor Pete like Conway. You know what I'm saying? He's a nice young man. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Oh, he's a nice young man. Get a lot of that in the north side of Chicago. Ben, how could you be so critical of such a nice young man? I don't know. He's spending daddy's money like $10.5. I have a lot of issues with this. His father ran a private equity firm. They made money buying up with munitions dealers, arms manufacturers. So they make bombs and airplanes and bomb people and stuff. Yeah. And that's the money he's getting to run this campaign. And so he's using that money to knock out of the box a black woman, Kim Fox. I just have a hard time with it, folks. I know, but most of the people that live around me on the north side of Chicago, a lot of them, he's such a nice young man. So anyway, Bill Conway coming in just out of nowhere, running for state's attorney with daddy's money. It's not sitting right with me. Number 3, Donna Moore, the pride and joy of Evanston High School.
Donna Moore.
And she ran last time, and I think she's
Number 3.
I think she's qualified to be state's attorney. But beyond that, she's not really impressed me enough to vote for her over the incumbent. Number 2, Alderman Bob Fioretti. People, Ben, why would you put Fioretti number 2?
Yeah.
He runs for freaking everything, okay? Well, let me tell you something about Bob
Number
Fioretti
2.
that you don't know, people. All right? Way back when, he helped me with TIF stories, okay? I'm not the kind of guy to throw a guy under a bus.
No, you are not.
Stories. And he also, one time, a long time ago, I mentioned this in an article recently. We should do this beyond the column. We should go back and take a look at this one. Fioretti hooked me up with the Golden Jet. I don't think there's anybody in this room who knows what the Golden Jet is, but it's Bobby Hull, one of the greatest hockey players of all time. He was one of my heroes when I was a kid growing up. And thanks to Fioretti, I had a phone conversation with him. So, Fioretti, I'm not going to throw you under a bus, all right? So you're my number 2. And number 1, Kim Fox. Come on. Plus, I kind of feel responsible for him. She was sitting here in the studio, and she said a naughty word, right? We're not going to say it because Dennis won't let me swear, but it begins with an S and ends with a T. And if we were the Tribune, we would go S, and then we'd go dash T.
And if you were just anyone normal, you would say BS.
Oh, yeah.
Why are you making it more difficult than it needs to be?
Because I like how the Tribune does it. The Tribune spells it out. I respect the Tribune. BULLS ... No, I think they do the H and then the dot. Whoa, really going out on a limb there, guys. Anyway, she said.
Hope you enjoyed the show, guys. Everyone's turning out.
She said that on the air, and then Conway used some of Daddy's money to run a campaign ad against her, attacking her. More North Side people come, Ben, that was really offensive that she said that on your show. I'm really offended by that, and I just don't think it's appropriate that a leader talk that way. And can't we have better leaders for our offices? A lot of reaction like that on the north side of Chicago, D. So anyway, so I feel like, it's so unfair. Half the people saying that when they're at home are dropping the F-bomb left. Get that beep out of my driveway. So anyway, Kim Fox is number 1. Now, you asked me to make predictions in the 3rd Congressional. I don't get to vote in that race, but that's the one where Danny Lipinski, rematch against Marie Newman. You know what? I'm going to go out there on a limb. Marie Newman's going to win. How about that, D? Well, I don't know, but I'm going to bet with my heart. I want her to win. She's the most progressive of all the candidates. And she's a proud defender of a woman's right to choose. Danny Lipinski is perhaps the most adamant opponent to abortion rights. So I'm rooting for Marie Newman. And so I'm just going to predict her to win just because I want her to win. How about that, D? And then you asked me to do the 12th state rep seat on the north side. This is one of our favorite races. This is a race where there's probably going to be no difference whatsoever in the voting records of the people who win, because they're all going to vote the same way. And good liberal, safe district. They could be the most radical. They would have the freedom to be the most radical politicians in the world, but of course, they'll be basic mainstream Dems. You got Jonathan Yoni Pizer versus Margaret Croak. And Pizer is technically the incumbent because Sarah Feigenholtz, who had the seat, was elevated to state senate to replace Dennis's favorite politician, John Cullerton. The vacancy was filled by Pizer, so he's technically the incumbent. But I'm going to go with Margaret Croak winning. Why not, D, huh? I'm going to go with, she's got those commercials running all the time. J.B. Pritzker's giving her a lot of money. I like Pritzker these days, D. He's done a hell of a job, man.
Pritzker's killing it these days.
When I think about how responsible
doing really well,
he's doing, just the way he handles the coronavirus situation, the way he's just so much more reassuring than Trump, and he's focused. It seems like he's like in a very responsible, even-handed manner, trying to give out basic information. And of course, he doesn't have nearly the authority and the power of President Trump, who's just out to lunch on this thing. So anyway, I guess it's easy to look good when you're compared to Donald Trump, but good job, J.B. Pritzker. So there you go. He supports Croak. I think she's going to win the race, huh? So those are my predictions, D.
Oh,
and,
everybody's writing them down. They're ready to go to the ballots now.
No, they're you hear all those cars? That's all the people driving to Vegas to get their money down. Anyway, we got a great show today. Rummana Hussain will be in here. She'll talk about, I'm sure she'll be talking about coronavirus, working from home, and we'll be picking apart Donald Trump's speech from yesterday or from Wednesday. Nydia Carranza will be here. She's running for state rep in the 3rd district. That's Louis Arroyo's old seat, and interesting, that's the one where the Dems got together and inserted Eva Dina Delgado to be the state rep after Louis Arroyo had to step down because he was indicted, got in trouble in a bribery scandal. And guess who had a hand in picking Eva Dina Delgado? Louis Arroyo. How about that? Chicago politics. Always entertaining in the face of apocalypse. Chicago politics, always entertaining. And Sergio Mims will be here, the co-founder of the Black Harvest Film Festival. He's got a lot of political predictions he's going to make. He's going to unveil his prediction as to who Joe Biden's running mate will be. But beyond that, we're going to make recommendations. You guys are going to be sitting inside a lot over the next week or so, and so you're going to be watching a lot of movies. Nobody knows movies as well as Sergio. I can tell you that right now. Very knowledgeable guy. So we'll go through some of the great scary movies, election movies, just comedies. Maybe you need some laughs. Last night I was watching Larry David, D, to kind of cheer me up in the face of everything. By the way, it kind of worked for at least an hour watching that guy. So Sergio Mims will be here before we do any of that. The young man from Alton, the man they call the doctor, with the news.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Dennis. Happy Friday. Oh, Ben, before we get going here, we got a question on the live stream chat. Shout out to Pat Rod. What's happening, Pat Rod? Pat Rod asks, who does Ben like between Quigley and Burns?
Well, Quigley will win the race. Run to Vegas.
Inform everybody of who these people are.
But I would go for Brian Burns. I always like to push my Dems to the left, and he's running to the left of Quigley. And he ran into my wife yesterday somewhere.
Oh, at Trader Joe's.
Was it at Trader Joe's?
Yeah.
How did you know?
I saw the tweet. He tweeted it. Well, if you just read that Twitter page we have.
Yeah, and he's a big fan of the show. So right there, I'd vote for that guy because he's a big fan of the show.
And who's Quigley?
Come on, Mike Quigley is the congressman of the 5th Congressional District. But you know what? That's a good question. He's been congressman since, oh my goodness, can I do this? 2009, when Rahm stepped down to be the White House Chief of Staff for Barack Obama. He's basically a centrist Dem. Before that, he was Cook County Commissioner. I like Quigley. He's another guy that I worked with on many stories back in the day when he was Cook County Commissioner. And for a moment, he was a TIF reformer, and I appreciate the efforts he did on that issue. For a moment, he was thinking of running against Daley in 2007. I wish he had run against Daley, but he probably took a look at the polls and showed that he couldn't win. Anyway, that's who Mike Quigley is.
There you are, candidates. If any of you are listening and you're a candidate, just run into Ben Joravsky at the grocery store and you might get his vote. How about that?
Yeah, or his wife.
Or his wife, yeah either one. Mm-hmm. All right, for the 4th and final time this week, what do you say we find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon? And what do you say we keep talking about these local primary elections? Shout out to WTTW Chicago. They had themselves a good old-fashioned candidate forum last night. Featured were all 4 of our Cook County State's Attorney candidates, Incumbent State's Attorney Kim Foxx, Bill Conway, Ben's number 2, Donna Moore, and Bob Fioretti. Oh, I'm sorry, Bob Fioretti was your number 2.
That is
my
correct.
apologies. Bill Conway is not your number 2.
No, Bill Conway was my number 4. There's 4 candidates running, and Bill Conway is my 4th.
We'll try that again.
That means if nobody else was running, I would vote for Bill Conway.
All 4 of our Cook County State's Attorney candidates, incumbent State's Attorney Kim Foxx, Bill Conway, Donna Moore, and Bob Fioretti were present. WTTW's own Paris Schutz was the moderator. And, well, if we learned anything from this forum last night, it's this. My God, people love talking about Jussie Smollett. Oh, and after this thing went down, Parachutes definitely needed a drink.
We're getting too much in the weeds here. I want to go back. I want to go. 1 second, please. I just want to go back to the issue that we started with.
Oh, guys, come on.
I always have this. I've watched him in several situations like that, Parachutes, where people are arguing and fighting, and he's always like, "Calm down, calm down." I always have this image of him like pulling out a flask. And, oh God, these guys are insane.
Well, I remember when we first started doing the show, before you were fired.
Oh,
he would always have Rahm Emanuel on Chicago Tonight, and boy, just the look on his face, like, get me out of here.
Having to interview Rahm and listen to that BS. Oh my God.
If you look closely, Parachutes is applying to other jobs. Yeah, Milwaukee sounds good. All right, Ben Joravsky, and who would have thought? Who would have thought that after all of these years of you working in Chicago media, that the time Kim Foxx came on your podcast and cursed would go down as maybe your most famous moment?
I just can't believe it. I mean, I've only been doing this for 40 years. It's the first time I ever got put in a commercial.
Yeah, and that was the first thing that came up here on Chicago Tonight was BS Gate.
A lot of issues to get to, but I do have to address the issue that has dominated this campaign.
Sure.
A judge saw fit to appoint a special prosecutor. The candidates here have questioned your judgment as it relates to this case. Can you explain your comment that the attention on Jussie Smollett over the last year has been, quote, BS?
Yeah, I think when we look at the history of the Cook County State's Attorney's Office and the criminal justice system here in Cook County, the fact that we were known as the false confession capital of the United States, that we have the history of wrongful convictions, almost $1 billion spent in police misconduct cases, as well as a high homicide rate and the like, that the attention on a nonviolent low-level offense for almost a year, dominating the conversation, when, not to say that people shouldn't care about it, but the attention, the millions of dollars that have gone behind trying to keep this at the forefront while not addressing the other issues of our criminal justice system seems disingenuous.
All right. First of all, Paris, you could have given me a shout out for crying out loud. Your quote. And by the way, quote BS. It wasn't, she didn't say BS. Ben, I can't say what she said, okay? It's WTT. To quote, you don't go quote BS if the quote is not BS. All right, anyway, that's a minor point.
Shout out to that show, Weird Guy and Bald Douchebag. They're awesome.
In the room by the bathrooms.
Yeah, I believe that's what it's called.
Remember, one time we booked Paris. Remember that? To come on this show?
Oh, yeah, and now you're going to talk about the time we booked Paris and he didn't come on.
He couldn't make it. He was busy. I don't know what he was doing.
Well, I know how to not get him on the show. Mention it.
Rummana Hussain has entered the room. Rummana Hussain has entered. It's appropriate because Rummana and I don't see completely eye to eye on this thing. I think I agree wholeheartedly with Kim Foxx that our obsession with Smollett Gate is utter BS. And I say this as a person, admittedly. It's just a confession time. I am obsessed with it. I talk about it nonstop.
You're more obsessed with it than I am. I'm just
big time.
Yeah, I mean,
Big time.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, if you want to put a napkin on that, feel free, or a tissue on that.
I don't want to be like the Utah jazz player.
Yes, Rudy. Well, I mean, it's your call.
I'm okay.
You sure? Okay. I don't know who used that mic.
We wiped it down.
Okay, all right, we're good. But anyway, so just looking out for my guests as always. So yes, I am obsessed with it. Rummana's absolutely correct. That said, my obsession, I admit, is largely because it's such an entertaining diversion from what really matters in the criminal justice system, which, as anybody knows who listens to conversations between Rummana and me over the months, knows is just so depressing, because it's one horrific story after another. So this meaningless diversionary tale about a celebrity, a B-list celebrity, I find entertaining, and but I don't think it should be the reason somebody drives Kim Foxx out of office, even though almost all of my North Side neighbors seem to disagree. Ben, I think you should be really, you're being too nice to her just because you like her. I just think it's not that important of an issue. Sorry, that's how I view it, D.
All right, I got a lot of clips here of the State's Attorney Forum on WTTW. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play a clip of each candidate, and then we'll go to break. How about that?
All right, and then we'll get Rummana's thoughts on them, because she covered criminal justice issues for many, many years for the Sun-Times.
Excellent. Here's Donna Moore talking about what else when in this race. Smollett Gate.
I think that what the issue is that this case was indicted, 16 counts. 3 weeks later, it's dropped, and we never heard from Kim Foxx about why the case was dropped. A special prosecutor determined that there was evidence to indict the case, and the second part of his determination is whether or not there was wrongdoing on the part of the state's attorney. Before the special prosecutor was appointed, Ms. Foxx could have stood up and told us all in Cook County why those charges were dropped, and instead, she's facing down potential criminal wrongdoing.
Oh, I thought you were going to play them all.
Oh, okay. We'll play them all in a row, and then you can weigh in.
Yeah, then we'll take the break, then we'll weigh in. Yeah, I thought that's what you said you were going to do.
Okay, great. Well, we should have had a pre-show meeting, huh?
No, I literally thought that's what you said you were going to do.
All right, coming up next, it's Bill Conway, Ben's favorite. Here we go.
Mr. Conway, is it disingenuous to focus so much on one case and not on thousands of other cases being prosecuted?
This is, you can't have a two-tier criminal justice system because you can't have criminal justice reform when the politically connected get one deal and other people get another. And not to mention, we have a situation where the current state's attorney giving politically connected people seems to be a rite of passage in her office. As a fact, we saw the fact that she held a fundraiser at Ed Burke's home, and then shortly after she got in office, gave him a $2 million property tax rebate. And that is not, we can't have that kind of politically connected people getting special deals.
All right, and finally here, this is not his first rodeo, Bob Fioretti, all right? It's like his 50th rodeo. He loves running. He knows that if you're going to get in on this thing, if you want to talk, you got to interrupt people. So Bob Fioretti weighs in as well.
Wait a minute. They memorize their lines. They tell the people the same thing over and over, these three. And I have to, when you're looking at what happened here, Kim took a phone call, and yes, from somebody politically powerful. But she also
This is from
takes
Tina
emails.
Chen.
Yes.
Former chief of staff to the former first lady.
Yes, but she's lied to the public about what she did. She lied to her impressions of the case. She has always done covering herself throughout this whole morass of what has happened, and it's unfortunate.
All right, Ms. Foxx, I have to give you a chance to respond to a lot of things.
Absolutely.
So he's saying you lied about this case, is that correct?
Absolutely not. And to be clear, when we talk about disingenuous, Mr. Conway, who you introduced as being a pro bono lawyer, went out and found someone to bring in to his campaign by finding a client. The fact of the matter is he can't decide which way we're going here, that this office has taken a stance on nonviolent low-level offenses where we were using diversion, thousands of cases, and he knows that.
All right, we'll take a break. Be right back with Rummana Hussain.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicago.
How did you go from sharing stories over the years to deciding to write a book?
Good question, Mayor. Good question.
Hey, D.
Yeah?
Did I tell you that the Ben Joravsky Show is sponsored by Rattleback Records?
No.
Well, it is. Rattleback Records at 5405 North Clark Street is Andersonville's full-service record store. Hey, D. Did I tell you it was voted one of Chicago's best record stores in the 2019 Chicago Reader poll?
Oh.
Well, it was.
Wow.
Rattleback Records, 5405 North Clark Street. Used and new LPs and 45s. They got CDs, DVDs, books, gifts, and much more. For more information, contact them at rattlebackrecords.com. That's RATTLE BACKrecords.com.
Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Rummana Hussain comes into the studio every Friday from the Chicago Sun-Times. She's I always say the editor of the Sun-Times. You're not the editor of the Sun-Times. But she should be a columnist, in my opinion. But, you know, nobody really asked me, Ben, what's your opinion of how Sun-Times...
Nobody asked me my opinion either.
Well,
so.
I think you should be a columnist.
I should write more.
People don't realize about Rummana until they hear her on the show. She has a lot of opinions.
No. Everybody who knows me knows this.
Yeah, and so that's like, you need opinions when you're a columnist. It's like number one requirement. Anyway, all right. Speaking of opinions, we played you those excerpts from last night's debate, which was like a very entertaining wrestling match.
Yeah, and obviously Jussie Smollett is one of the cases that come. I mean, one of the issues, and it becomes the issue, and I think that's what a lot of people find problematic. People who really like Kim Foxx, they're like, that shouldn't be the central issue that we just talk about. I think it's fine if they talk about it, but I agree it shouldn't be the only thing that they talk about. And then, a lot of people say Kim Foxx acts like it was no big deal by saying it's BS, or I know she said the whole thing to you guys. So I'm not
right in that chair.
She said but one of our editors was just joking. They're like, they're like, next week it's going to be doo-doo. Because she, made it, she said the whole swear word. Then, for us, she's cleaned it up a little, BS. And then he's like, next week it's going to be doo-doo. It's going to be sanitized.
Wait, time out. Was that the same editor who wrote this incredible headline, Gathering No Momentum, in today's Bright One?
No.
Oh.
It wasn't the same. I mean, it could have been, because the same editor comes up with a lot of good headlines, in addition to the guys who work on the copy desk.
Got it. That's pretty funny headline. Gathering No Momentum. Anyway, sorry, cut you off. Go on.
So anyway, I do think it's an issue, but I don't think it's the only issue. So I do agree with you, but I do think that you're more obsessed with the Jussie Smollett story than I am.
That's correct.
There's definitely, I mean, I can tell you just being from the newsroom, I mean, it's a story that everyone eats up. So I know a lot of people say they don't care about it, but I think people do. I mean,
that's BS.
Even in the office, even when I think it's an incremental step in the case, or when we still my boss will be like, no, we're doing a story on it. These stories do, well on the website. They get a lot of hits. So I'm just telling you, people do pay attention to it. It is an interesting, in the age of Trump, in the allegation, the things that Jussie Smollett alleged, and then, this being, an alleged, fake, report. I think it brings up a lot of sentiments. And, you have the entertainment factor. You called him a B-list actor. I don't even know if he's a B-list actor. I mean, nobody knew who he was, right? Until I don't know. Sometimes you can call them D-listers. But I don't want to, I'm not going to make fun of him. But, his sister's a very famous, not very famous, but she's famous. I know who she is. But so when I heard his name, I thought, oh, he must be Gurney Smollett's brother. So anyway.
I didn't even know that. All right, so let me ask you this. Put the hard question to you. Which story is more significant? I can't even talk. Significant. Jussie Smollett Gate or Ben Affleck's breakup with, what's her name? Jennifer.
But Jennifer, that's been a while.
Yeah.
Jennifer Gardner.
But they're getting back together.
No, they aren't.
Last week they were talking about it.
No, he was spotted with the actress from Knives Out.
I'm devastated.
I was going to say, who do I believe more, Rummana or Ben?
No, when it comes to pop culture, I know more.
Wasn't they in Cuba? They were in Cuba with the
No, that wasn't Jennifer Garner. That was the other actress.
Yeah.
Yes.
See?
She's Cuban. She's she's from Cuba.
I would argue that Ben's love life, let's just put it that way, is of greater significance than Smollett Gate. But anyway,
he's not like it's not like the late 90s when him and Matt Damon were the hot things. They're not that.
Which one would get more hits if you write a story about it? Ben's love life or Smollett Gate?
Smollett Gate.
All right. But what really bothers me, and I just would love your thoughts on this. I'm barraged by, I live on the north side, and so many north siders come up to me, and they're like, Ben, you're not taking this seriously enough. This is a very important.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do think it's a big issue. But yeah, I think there is a divide. I mean, maybe in certain neighborhoods, people are like, why is this a big deal? There's so many other things going on in our neighborhood. I'm assuming you're living in a more
affluent, white.
Yeah, neighborhood. So
Man,
yeah,
take it serious.
I think, you know, there probably are neighborhoods in the city of Chicago where people are like, seriously, this is like the one issue that you're worried about. And so it is interesting. I think like I said, you know, it's not like I was raised in you know, a struggling neighborhood myself. So, you know, sometimes I wonder too, am I getting, you know, am I asking the questions too much? I just think as a journalist, I think everybody should be held accountable. And I find like people who say that it's not a big deal, like they're fans of Kim Fox, which is fine. But if you're a fan of someone, does that mean you never hold them accountable for anything that they do?
Well,
I mean, are you supposed to say that, okay, we're never going to invest? What do you think, that there should be no investigation as to what exactly happened? I think, you know how they have like the different inspector generals, like Cook County Inspector General, and then we have a separate.
Yes.
Maybe I think that might be like, oh, there's too many internal investigations. I would think that there would be one, but I'm just saying, like, you wouldn't think that. You do think it should been investigated at all by anybody, or do you think we just should turn away from it? Just say, okay, let it go.
I think there should be an investigation. I think it's pretty obvious at the very worst what the investigation will show. She took a call from powerful people, and she acted accordingly by letting the guy go. Now, you could argue, when you take a look at what he did, you could say, well, you know, it's by no means anything coming close to the worst crime that was committed last year. So letting him go with a slap on the wrist, like she did, is not the end of the world. We are now heading into our third investigation. At some point,
no, I agree.
At some point, people have to start looking at what are the motives of the people calling for all the investigations, and why do my neighbors on the north side, are they so upset about the fact that Jussie Smollett might have gotten off with a slap on his wrist, but they kept voting year after year for Mayor Richard M. Daley, even though when he was the state's attorney, he was looking the other way while they were torturing black suspects. I just want to know.
There were reporters who turned the other way.
So my point is.
So I'm just saying it's not. Yeah, you are raising good questions.
And everybody should look in the mirror about like what they consider a really important. I compare it to a good celebrity story, and I love celebrity stories, as you know.
I do too. I follow that stuff.
I know we're both obsessed with them. So I've learned one thing I've learned from Rummana Hussain over the last year is never ever ask her who she intends to vote for, because she's not going to tell me anyway.
No journalists are going to tell you that.
That's not true. Off the record, they would.
Really? Maybe you would.
Yeah.
Because of the columns you write.
Well, I've already done my. So I'll just share this with you because you weren't here. My top 4, the way I rank them. And I'll go from 4 to 1. 4, Conway. 3, Donna Moore. 2, Bob Fioretti. And I say that
2.
The guy helped me and your husband when we were doing TIFF stories. So I'm loyal.
I think.
And number 1, Kim Fox.
I just wonder who advises Bob Fioretti. I'm just saying as
to run for all these offices.
Yeah, I was like, at some point you would think someone said maybe. Can give it a rest,
yeah.
But I don't know. He's allowed to. I forgot that he was in the race when he said 4. I was like, "Who's the 4th?"
No, Fioretti's in the race.
So,
yeah, and
it'll be. If I was going to predict who was going to win today, I would still say Kim Fox.
Well, I agree with you. A little concerned about the impact the coronavirus will have on turnout.
Yes, I do too. Because now the what do you call it? The not the paper ballots, but the electronic ballots are like an iPad.
Yeah.
So people are going to be worried about other people touching it. And I usually prefer that one.
Yeah.
I don't like the written ballots that much. But sometimes if I'm at my polling station, there's like an elderly person using it, and they take so long to touch it.
It might be me.
I know.
Yeah.
One time I was behind one guy. I'm like, who is this person? They're taking so long. I turn around as a neighbor.
Ouch.
And I was like, oh, hey. I was like muttering under my breath, like, well, hurry up. And I'm usually a pretty patient person, but they're taking so long. And we only had like one tablet.
I urge everybody to wash your hands before and then wash your hands afterwards. And by the way, you have sanitizer in the studio if you need it, Rummana.
Okay, I'll use it after.
Speaking of sanitizer, there is right there. The coronavirus, you worked from home. Talk about that.
Well, yesterday was the first day that the Sun-Times staff, we actually were asked to work from home as a trial basis in case we have to. Then we got a note that said, yesterday, we all have to work from home starting Monday. But then we just got an email a few minutes ago that said, if you feel, more comfortable working at the office, you can come to the office. But they're encouraging everybody to work from home. So I personally have never worked from home full time. Yesterday was my first day that I actually worked full time from home. I always thought of myself as someone that won't want to work from home because I like talking to people and, getting up and just bumping into people in the bathroom and having a conversation. I feel like I need that atmosphere to be more disciplined, but I was actually okay. The only thing is so on Wednesday, my husband who works for ProPublica, Mick Dumke, I picked him up after work. He's like, well, we're going to have to fight for office space in the house. I'm like, oh, great. You have to work from home too. And so the only reason, and I'm not saying I can work next to him. We actually worked at the Sun-Times together, but when we worked together, I was at the courthouse and he was here. And then when I became a full-time editor, he was in this little office with the other investigative reporters. So I barely saw him. So, we never really sat next to each other working together. But I told him, okay, so this is very true with most men and women and most couples. We disagree on the thermostat in the house. And he thinks, when it's cold outside, he opens the window. And I'm someone that gets cold really fast. So I was like, well, I'm telling you now, I don't want the window open. But I told him yesterday was okay because it was okay. The window, and we have two big windows where I was working in the kitchen. And then I also told him I don't want to hear music all day, and you're not playing your albums.
Wait, Mickey, you're supposed to be working.
Listen, but he needs music. I actually talked to his colleagues. I saw him at a holiday party. He invites me to the holiday party, and I know half of the staff, more than half the staff, because they all were Tribune reporters, and some of them I was friends with before Mick knew him. So I was like, now tell me the truth. Does Mick have his headphones on the whole day, and he sits on a Bosu ball? That's his chair at work. A ball and an exercise ball.
You're kidding.
He sits on one of those. So I'm like, is Mick sitting on the ball listening to music all day? And tell me the truth. And he does. So
wow.
He told me he'll wear headphones. I don't mind. Listen, it makes it sound like I really hate music. I love music, but I'm not one of those people that need music all the time. He listens to music all the time.
Well,
so I just told him, I'm like, well, and so then at some point, so I went and ran an errand. Okay, went to get my eyebrows threaded, by the way, during my break. And so that's one thing good about working from home, doing my little things. So we had to tell people, we're on Slack. I'm sure a lot of your listeners know what that is. It's a messaging
really annoying
system.
thing.
Ben even knows what it is.
We have to use it. And so, there's
So
a city
annoying.
desk. And so we're told, when we leave, because I'm an editor, I think it was probably harder for reporters because, you get assigned and you have to go out and do something. So, and I was in my pajamas. I'm one of those people that I'm like, I'm going to be in my pajamas if I ever work from home. And Mick is totally the opposite. He was like, he's goes swimming and he comes back and he's wearing regular clothes. I was wearing my pajamas. So I come back after getting my eyebrows threaded, and Mick is sitting there on a video conference call at work. And so I'm trying to I have to make myself a sandwich. So then I'm like, okay, so I have to be really quiet. And then I'm like, I don't want to get caught on camera with my pajamas on. So I tweeted about it. And then Mick responded, and then we were going back and forth. And then somebody's like, keep this Twitter thread going. Because Mick is like, I said something like, I don't think it's good for couples to be working from home together.
I was going to say, find Rummana at her local library here in a week or two.
No, this is a sitcom.
And then
Rummana
I said, I'm trying to make my grilled cheese while staying quiet. And then, then Mick responded. He was sitting there and he responded because he was getting all frustrated because he was doing FOIAs. I can't say for who. But, while he's doing this, he's getting all frustrated. And, it was like a state department. Like a state agency. So I was like, oh, let me give you the cell number of the press guy. So I'm sharing information with him. He's a reporter too. So a journalist too. So anyway, so we were going back and forth. And then Mick is like, let's stop this thread now because I haven't eaten lunch yet. It was 3:00. And then he came up to me, started tickling me. So then I'm like, then I just wrote on Twitter, I'm like, maybe if you stop tickling me, you can get. And then so then he sits down and he's like, oh, you crossed the line. Now people think we're not working. And then he turned all red. And he's all embarrassed. I'm like, well, you did come and tickle me. I'm not lying about it.
People are going to think we're not working because we tickled each other.
I didn't tickle him. He's not ticklish. She came and tickled me. So
See,
so Tina, I was just telling my friend / colleague Tina about how Mick was all embarrassed, and she's like, "What a nerd."
What a nerd.
Oh, I shouldn't have said her name. I shouldn't have out her.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tina.
You were. She's out. Tina Svandelis, fat Tina.
She told me to keep my threads up. She's like, "Oh, you have to keep tweeting about your experience working with Mick."
You know, it's I'm getting a kick out of listening to you tell the story because I'm in the reverse. For almost 40 years, I worked out of my house. And
so you know that.
Yeah. Well, when I announced way back when in the Reagan administration that I was going to be working from my house, my mother, may she rest in peace, was very concerned. And she said, "You're going to pick up bad habits." This is my mother, who's worked her whole life.
Yeah.
She's a school teacher, and she would, so she's used to getting up early, going to work. And she goes, "You're going to stop bathing. You're going to stop getting dressed in the morning. You're going to be wearing your pajamas. You got to keep your pattern." God bless you, Mom. And so get up, take a bath, take a shower, whatever, and then make sure that nothing changes. And I realized that she was kind of right. Like when you work at home, Dennis knows this because like Mondays when I work at home, I write the column. I'm in pajamas till about 3:30. Dennis, "You up yet? You done with that column yet?" And then part of the thing, I've told you this, when you work at home, you get used to talking loud. I'm a loud person anyway.
I talk loud too.
Yeah, you and I are, and so I like when I come here to a real office, the Sun Times, people are looking around. They're so loud,
But
dude.
they're loud too. There's different sets of people who are very loud. And so some of them are my friends and other
They
people.
must be hanging around with you because whenever I walk through, they all look good.
Well, there was
Jesus.
someone that used to talk, that talks a lot and is still friends with me, and she works out of the office part time, and we used to sit next to each other. So we said, this is in the old other building or Leeds years ago. But I have a former colleague who now works at WBZ, Michael Lansu, and he said that he used to live with a guy that worked from home, and that guy used to wake up and wear a dress shirt and a tie just to get into that mode. But actually, I'm someone who does like dressing up and stuff, like for events. So I'm like, it's not like I'm gonna let go of myself. I mean, between the two of us,
we shall see.
Between Mick and I have to say, I think Mick dresses up too, but he's like, oh, he thinks gym shoes are dress shoes, and I don't. But between when it comes to working from home, I feel like, oh, you could just totally relax and wear your
this
pajamas.
is going to be interesting.
So I'll be tweeting.
Yeah, and if, like I said, I announced earlier, our show will go on. I don't know. We're planning still to do the show from this studio. We have a whole line of guests coming in, but if necessary, we have the equipment, so we can take it.
And if you
on
hear the
road.
brown line every 10 minutes on one of our shows, we're at Ben's house.
And I'm in my pajamas.
Yeah.
No,
but
please
you
put
dress up.
pants on if we do this.
You said you dress up. I mean, you said you put like street clothes on. So
Well, no, but it was okay. I did this for over 30 years. So when I started, I was, yes, Mom, I'm going to do it the way you want to do it, blah, blah, blah. And then as time went on, I began to follow the pattern, particularly on deadline day.
Yeah.
Like a really tough deadline day, and I wake up and, oh my God, I got to do this story, and I'm freaking out, yelling at everybody in the house. It's like an all-nighter back in college days. So I've grown to like coming to the studio. I never thought I would say this, like going to someplace. And I talk to you on the phone when I'm coming in.
yeah, I'm
know.
like that too. I like I said, I think I'm one of the, Mick, when at some point the Reader, when they were attached, the Sun Times owned the Reader, I think the office kind of became smaller, and so he started working from home, and he said he really likes it, and he does work from home once a week on Fridays, but now he has to work, and this is obviously, I don't know if we mentioned, but this is because of the coronavirus, which has toppled all of my plans. Well, I was supposed to go to Portugal on Tuesday with my younger sister and a friend, and this whole time we're like, we'll be fine, but we're kind of like, maybe we shouldn't pack all the way, and then Donald Trump made that announcement on Wednesday. And it was all confusing because Mick standing in front of the TV and he goes, sorry. And then when the NCAA and all the NBA games got canceled, he's like, I guess this is how you feel. I'm like, traveling to Europe is totally different than your games. Well, but no, I know it probably it just feels like everybody's just being, everybody's plans change. One of Mick's friends was supposed to come and stay with us for a few days in early April. He's stuck in Italy. And he's like, even when I come back from Italy to New York, I'm going to have to self-quarantine for a couple of days. We've never had this happen before in our lifetime, at least not in my lifetime. So it's an interesting time. And Donald Trump said we're going to have no travel from Europe. And so our alert said no travel to and from Europe. This is the Sun Times alert. So that's what I thought. Like nobody could go to Europe and nobody. And then it turns out like his Department of Homeland Security, and then he said talked about cargo and goods, and they're like, oh no, this doesn't apply to U.S. citizens. So it's like, so I can go overseas, and then what if I come back, or what if the EU doesn't want me there because they had no idea he was going to say this.
Yeah. No.
It was just interesting. It was just like so many misfacts, and so we even though Americans are exempt, my sister and friend and we're just saying, what if we just come back and there's like they decide to like ban everybody from coming back because I think Americans are trying to come back. So it's kind of I'm kind of sad. I know it's a first world problem, but I was looking forward to it. I was going to leave on election night, but
no, I mean it. Listen, in the total scheme of things,
it's not. Yes, there's people who are getting sick,
right?
So.
And we all understand that. But I'm just going to talk about Donald Trump for a moment here.
Did you think he looked?
I think
bad on
okay.
TV?
So yesterday,
I mean, not that he's a handsome man or anything like that.
I thought it was one of the weirdest performances I've ever seen. So yesterday, I just saw a snippet of it. And I didn't have the opportunity to absorb the full thing from start to finish. And then there's clips of the after speech. I don't know if you've seen those clips.
No.
Okay, there's after.
I'll watch.
Yeah. Anyway, so it was one of the most robotic performances I've ever seen. He was reading it like a third grader reading. This is I mean, it was like there was no emotion. It was as though he was going through it the first time. I've been reading articles about it subsequently. They were rewriting the speech up to the last minute. The White House hasn't decided.
And then he called it, sorry to bring this up, he called it a foreign virus. Well, trying to, I don't know.
Okay, so they're struggling with this. They're struggling with acknowledging that we're in a very vulnerable situation.
Of course.
And that as a civilization, the entire world is in this together. But that violates every single principle, if you can call it, that he supposedly believes in, which is we are a superior people and I'm making us even greater than we already were, and everybody else outside us is inferior, especially if their skin is a little different color than the people who vote for me. And so
that was one of the things I was thinking. I'm like, okay, first of all, this government doesn't want me in this country. So like, what if I leave and, they are saying it's all exempt from the U.S. and I'm like, I'm walking by and they're like, no, they don't.
Well, we got rid of her.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like,
you can stay in Portugal.
Yeah.
And it's very bizarre because think about this. So I watched the whole speech. Each part was more bizarre than the other. I could see where different aides stitched together different ideas, so they didn't even come together. But like just exempting England and Ireland from.
My niece said that he has 2 golf courses there, but I don't know.
No, your niece is right. How old's your niece?
She's 25.
Oh, I'll bet she's voting for Kim Fox because that sounds like a person who can see BS from BS.
She lives in Milwaukee and she wants to vote in Milwaukee because of the Wisconsin being a swing state.
Absolutely.
So she's like, I'm not.
First of all, she lives in Milwaukee.
No, but she wasn't mind. She didn't mind voting in Chicago, but she's like, no, I'm going to vote in Milwaukee.
Time out. Does she live in Milwaukee?
Yeah, she lives in Milwaukee.
All right, let's just get that straight, okay? Suddenly, Donald Trump's police are going to knock at her door. Where do you live? But anyway, it was a very bizarre speech. The delivery was bizarre. The ideas stitched together, which were like taken parts from Stephen Miller's insane view of the world, and then parts from like the rational scientist. Like there's one scientist in the Trump administration. What a lonely guy that is. Then Jared Kushner's throwing in his ideas. Ivanka's throwing in her ideas, and yeah, very bizarre speech.
Do you think he was tested? Because he was with that Brazilian.
Absolutely.
But do you think he maybe has it?
I don't know. That's a whole other question. But let's just get to
I was
this.
just saying because some people noticed that he seemed really nervous and.
Well, I have to give a shout out to Robert Peters, State Senator Robert Peters, was on the show a couple days ago, and we were discussing whether Donald John Trump was tested, and Donald John Trump said no, he's not tested. And so he's trying to show that A, he doesn't take this thing seriously. B, only wimps get tested, which is the exact wrong message you should be sending out. But 3, as Robert Peters says, he's a freaking coward. So if he has access to a test, this is the most privileged, pampered guy in the world, okay? Who's got elected president of the United States, even though he couldn't pass a basic skills test to be president. You're telling me he wouldn't take advantage of a test?
No, I think he probably did take it, but would never admit it. right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's just my take.
That's an opinion. That's just
sorry.
an opinion. She's got opinions, people. So yes, of course.
But it's an interesting time. So I just don't know if this government knows what it's doing. So that's why I had to cancel plans. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've had to cancel plans. Incidentally, there's a former Sun-Times reporter, Monifa Thomas, who is 6 months pregnant. She lives in Texas now, but her shower is tomorrow, her baby shower. I'm one of the Sun-Times people invited, and a few of my former Sun-Times colleagues are invited too. But she flew in from Texas last night, and she just was in the newsroom a few minutes ago, because I told her, I'm like, I was wondering if you were going to come in, and she's like, I read up on her. Her mom's a health official too. And I think one of the things that's interesting about this, I mean, we definitely have to take coronavirus seriously. Like, I think we should take all the precautions, but I think that one thing to do is not be hysterical either. But I mean, I kept my mom from flying to Texas because she was going to go to Texas on Wednesday. So me and my siblings are like, maybe she shouldn't go. She was going to go with my older sister because a family friend of ours had a sister who passed away, who my mom also knew. So she wanted to go. And
I got to tell you this. I struggle with this.
I'm in the
You're
middle.
right. You're absolutely right. We should not get hysterical about these things. And look, I keep coming to the studio.
And the thing is, Monifa has her mom is a doctor, and it's like I find people who have healthcare professionals in their families. They're a little more. I've never been a hypochondriac. My dad was a doctor, but he's also from a poor village in India. So he's always tell us, he's like, it's good to be cautious, but like this over cleaning and like. This is like for just general life, not with, my dad passed away, but he used to like laugh at people who would be like overly zealous. He's like, you're supposed to be exposed to certain germs. When we'd go to India in the winter, my dad's like, you don't need vaccines, you'll be fine.
Okay, you're now edging into Donald Trump country.
No, because I'm saying you have to stay in the middle. I'm saying there's some people that I know who are very like, everything is germy, like everything.
Remember the Jack Nicholson movie? He was he was a germaphobe. What was that movie? It was
I
it
don't
was your
watch it.
era. It was the 90s. Anyway, he was always washing his
No. It's good to be like, know what I mean?
Helen Hunt was in the movie with him.
Oh,
I knew
like,
that would
she's a
trigger it
waitress
for-
or something.
Was she a waitress? I can't remember. Anyway,
And he like makes her a better man or something.
yeah, something like that. Anyway, the point is, there was that era of bad Jack Nicholson movies, but
Cleaning your hands is good.
okay.
Because my dad was a surgeon, so he was cleaning his hands
One thing
all the
I've
time.
noticed, I don't want to
But
give away any secrets about the Sun-Times restroom.
we have
Oh,
soft
where are we
soap.
going
We have
here?
soft soap now. They have like a different
Oh
soap.
man, these guys are washing their hands like crazy in the Sun-Times. A little bit scrubba-dubba-dubba, Oh man, I'm like, I never see you guys scrub your hands so much, but I would always be the one because I'm like a little heading
Yeah, that's
into-
good. You're probably more. Like,
I'm heading there. I'm
yeah.
heading there. So
And
I'm freaking out.
Like I said, I grew up from a family. My parents who came from India, but my mom used to say I should have taught you guys to wash your hands more often because you guys aren't that. And I was once in a car in India too. Like my cousins from the village picked me up at an airport, and it was like 2 hours away from my dad's village. And they picked up some neighbors who needed a ride, and they're like, "This is 2011," and they're like, "Yeah, we had the bird flu. We have, they had the bird flu," and they're sitting next to me. So I'm just saying I've been exposed to all, but I'm cautious. I'm not Donald Trump. Trust me, I'm not Donald Trump.
I could say that. She is not Donald Trump.
That's correct.
But I'm just saying I come from, I'm not a germaphobe, I guess. And I am washing my hands. I just want people to know when I'm going to the gym. Some people are not going to the gym. I still am going to the gym, but I'm wiping everything down. And then they have hand sanitizer too. So I'm cleaning my hands and making sure I don't touch my
All
face.
right, now
and stuff.
Nydia Carranza, our next guest, is in the studio. We're going to bring her on real soon. And after Nydia, we have Sergio Mims. He's coming in, film critic extraordinaire, the co-founder of the Black Harvest Film Festival, knows more about movies than any man alive. And so we'll be doing a lot of movie recommendations. People locked in because coronavirus, they don't feel like going out. They're skipping concerts, etc. So
Concerts are being canceled.
Concerts
It's more
are
than
being
250
canceled.
people.
Yes.
Somebody told me our wedding reception would have been canceled.
Oh my God!
Pritzker would have shut that down.
I was at that wedding reception. I think every person from Skokie was at that wedding reception. Place was packed. And
Indian weddings, yeah.
young Mick Dumke at the center of it all. By the way, I just have to say this: Rummana's brother. Guy's he's hilarious, D. This guy is funny. He's a stand-up routine. And he was like doing like Don Rickles insulting the audience.
Yeah, he said he wanted to make it a roast. He
Oh
said,
my
He said,
God.
I'm going to make fun of journalists.
Yeah, well, they're easy to make fun of, and they're very vulnerable. All right, now, before I let you go, what movie or TV show do you recommend to the masses who are locked
I
into
don't
their
know
houses?
because I was planning to go out of town. So I am finishing up Narcos.
Are you going to watch Contagion again?
Never watched it. Wasn't that filmed in? I think part of it was filmed in Skokie, which you mentioned a few minutes. Is Kate Winslet in that?
Yes, she was in
Yeah,
that.
so that there's this one.
Why are you looking at
There's
me,
this
dude?
one science institute or something
Yeah.
near this yellow line. I think they used it in the movie. I'll Google it and look it up. But I remember they're filming there.
Yeah, it's a good flick. It'll scare the heck out of you right now, considering everything. But Howard Ehrman, who's going to be our bonus guest, he's a doctor, and we're going to take a deep dive on coronavirus. He said, hey, as to prepare for the interview, watch Contagion. And so I didn't get an opportunity to watch again. But anyway, Rummana Hussain, thank you very much for stopping in.
Thank you for having me.
We don't know where we'll be doing the show next Friday, but I'm pretty sure you will be on it somehow or other. How about that? All right.
We can't make fun of Mick because he'll probably be in the background.
Oh, even better.
Yes.
When has that ever stopped us?
Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, all right, thank you, Rummana.
Thank
Nydia
you.
Carranza on deck. We'll bring her on when we return. Eroding beaches on Chicago's lakefront, warmer winters in the upper Midwest, microplastics in our water. What can any one person do? Our best hope for saving the planet and ourselves is through the power of we. Get to the 9th annual One Earth Film Festival, the Midwest's premier environmental film festival. It's March 6th through the 15th. March 6th through the 15th.
When?
March 6th through the 15th. I was waiting for you to say that.
14th?
No. Pay attention. Take a piece of paper out and a pencil and write it down. March 6th through the 15th. Okay?
15th.
And there's 26 films, 48 events, and 4 counties. What is that again, D?
26.
Films,
48.
events,
4.
counties. You can engage with filmmakers and experts. Venues include Tesla Gold Coast, Loyola University, Plant Chicago, Old St. Patrick's Church, Chicago Cultural Center, Lake Theater in Oak Park, and much more. Go to oneearthfilmfest.org. What is that, D?
OneEarthFilmFest.org.
One more time.
OneEarthFilmFest.org.
God, are you good?
That's correct.
Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
Hi, everybody. I'm Fran.
On Election Eve in New Hampshire, I went to a Biden event. It was in Manchester, and I thought, well, I really am here to witness the end. It was in a small church, in a small gym, with a small turnout. And I thought, oh, how sad to wrap up a career like this. And I thought...
That's the obit.
I thought that would be the end. And, of course, he did not do well in New Hampshire.
What you just heard there was the latest Fran Spielman podcast. This week's guest on the Fran Spielman Show is Washington reporter Lynn Sweet. She was on the program with Fran talking all things the POTUS election, the Biden barn burner that's been going on the last few weeks, talking about that as well, the future of Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, the election, with the coronavirus going on. So many things they talked about. Go check out this week's Fran Spielman Show at the Chicago Sun-Times website or wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show for Friday, March 13th is moments away. But before we get into that, we got to thank the following unions once again for sponsoring this program. Unions like the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace, not Aerosmith workers, Local 126 and District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9 are sponsors, as well as the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. Giant thank you to those unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this program. And, of course, today's Ben Joravsky Show for Friday, March 13th is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Hour number 2, let's go. It is Friday, March 13th, And live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is The Ben Joravsky Show. In this hour of the program, we welcome State Rep candidate Nydia Carranza, and it's the return of the director of the Black Harvest Film Festival, the one, the only Sergio Mims. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Nydia Carranza in the studio. Nydia Carranza in the studio. She's running for state rep in the 3rd state rep district. We talked about this district quite a bit on our show. Louis Arroyo used to be the representative. I say used to be. He stepped down and got in trouble. Got in trouble. Had to step down. Oh, some kind of bribery scandal, huh, D? Anyway, so Nydia Carranza is in the studio. Sergio Mims will be here. He's already arrived in the building. Can't wait to talk. Sergio's going to make his great prediction, D, as to who Joey B is going to pick as his vice presidential candidate. The assumption, of course, being that Joe Biden will be victorious and defeat Bernie Sanders. And I'm under a lot of pressure, D, on this front. Everybody knows I support Bernie. I'll make it secret. I welcome Joe Biden people in the studio. Just want you to know that I welcome all Democrats into this studio. Got my issues with Republicans. I'm trying to work through it. But I hope Bernie stays in the race. I get a lot of pressure from my friends of the Joey Biden persuasion. Drop out, Bernie. Drop out. Sun-Times had an editorial today I think it was. Drop out, Bernie, for the good of the party. But no, I think for the good of the party, Bernie should stay in and express his views, articulate his worldview. Push Joey B to the left. Come on, Bernie. So that's how I see it. But Sergio has already decided Joey B is going to win. You have any updates for me, young man, before I turn it over to Nidia?
Yeah, I do. I would say I have more audio of last night's forum, the Cook County State's Attorney Forum.
What is at stake here is having someone who's putting millions of dollars into this campaign on a platform of militarization, comparing our neighborhoods,
that is wildly
comparing
false.
our neighborhoods to Afghanistan, and having money fueled by the Carlyle Group, which has invested in military weaponry, including flash grenades that were used in Ferguson. What is the interest of the Carlyle Group?
Money from the
Can't argue with anything she said, D. Can't argue with anything she says.
Yeah,
and so, go ahead.
All the clips I got are mostly about Smollettgate here, so we're just going to move on here and remind everybody that to check out this week's column from our very own Ben Joravsky. Ben, tell everybody what you wrote about this week in your column.
Wasn't Kim Fox Gate the thing I wrote about?
I'm asking you. Why are you asking me what your column is?
You think I should know, Nidia? Yeah, I wrote about Nidia. We're in that chair actually next to you where you're sitting right now. Kim Fox was on the show last Thursday. Kim Fox, Cook County State's Attorney. And we were talking about Smollettgate, and I said, most lefties think it's exaggerated. It's not as important as everybody says it is, even though I'm utterly obsessed with it. I have to make that confession, Nidia. And she said it was bullshit. She used that word, literally that word. Uh-oh, Dennis looked at me. You're not supposed to swear. You're allowed to swear. It's a podcast. But anyway, so I told her, no big deal. Next thing I know, old boy Conway had a commercial out where he was playing her saying that from the show. Yeah, did I get any royalties, Conway? Well, that Carlisle money you got, did Benny get anything out of that? I don't think so.
How about Denny? Did he get anything?
Denny
No.
and Benny didn't get anything, Nidia. But what I did get was an email from the campaign team that came up with that cockamamie commercial, trash talking me. They're like, how'd you like your cameo? Like, these guys, everybody's like Donald Trump now. You know what I'm saying? I know, man. Anyway, so I just think I do believe, as obsessed as I am with Smollettgate, that it's completely overplayed. And I say this as a person who talks about it all the time, thinks about it all the time, Nidia. But then, like I was saying with Rummana, I'm into Ben Affleck's romance. So to me it's very similar, like celebrity obsessions. You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
So that's how I view it. Anyway, so that's the story. All right, Nydia Carranza. Anyway, the column I wrote has to deal with Smollettgate.
Go check it out, chicagoreader.com. Yep.
All right, very good. Nydia Carranza, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me here. Thanks for still being open throughout this all. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're still open, and we're still open for business, still doing our show in this little little studio we have here in the back by the bathrooms. All right, Nidia, you're running for state rep in the 3rd District. Let's just start by telling folks a little bit, where is the 3rd District so they can just sort of put it in their mind's eye geographically?
Yes, it's Chicago's northwest side. A small portion of the 3rd District is Logan Square by Fullerton and Pulaski, and it runs all the way west past Unedmosa, including Belmont and Cragen, a little bit parts of Galewood, Mount Clair. We have a small portion of Elmwood Park and Dunning too.
All right, and is this an area that you're familiar with? Is this where you grew up?
Yes, I grew up in Chicago's northwest side.
Talk about that.
I went to Chicago Public Schools, Scammon Elementary and Lane Tech. And I'm also a product of Chicago's community colleges, Wright College and State University, Northeastern Illinois University.
Yeah, so you went to Wright, then you went to Northeastern after going to Lane Tech, proud graduate of Lane Tech, class of 2007, I want to say.
Correct.
So you're very young, at least to me anyway. And you then, what's your profession? Became a teacher. Talk about that.
I first got my bachelor's in social work, and then I became a teacher because I felt like I could make a greater impact in a classroom in front of 30 students versus one-on-one counseling. And that's what I'm doing now, and that's what I love to do. And since the beginning, first year in teaching, I saw a lot of injustices in our school system. I started working in the South Side, and first year pre-K full-day classroom, we weren't allowed to have nap time, and I had 3-year-olds that were tired. And from what I learned in classes is what was developmentally appropriate is to make sure they rest during the day so their brain could develop, their neurons, and we were told we couldn't do that.
Wait, time out. Let's concentrate on this for a moment. So you're a rookie teacher just out of Northeastern with your degree. This is a Chicago public school?
Yes.
That you were teaching at?
Yes.
And it's preschool? Am I correct with this?
Yes, full day.
Full day preschool, which, okay, we have that. Let's just put that issue aside, the notion of full day preschool. And they instructed you they couldn't take naps. Did I hear you correct on that?
Yes, and I thought it was just a school policy, but getting involved with the union in their early childhood committee, I found out it was a CPS policy. It was citywide.
And what was the rationale for it?
There was policymakers that weren't teachers that were telling us what to do, not really looking at the research and what was developmentally appropriate. Their rationale was to push students to be instructional at all time.
Eat your vegetables. It's 3 years old. I gotta. So in other words, the notion is that they should all be like focused, learning to read at a very early age, like little robots just getting sent out to the world. Even though probably the people who are making those recommendations, including the mayor who appointed those people, were not taught the same way.
Exactly.
So did you rebel against this?
Yes, by joining the union, the Early Childhood Committee, we organized to make sure we brought it back to our classroom, and it was a battle that barely made it through in our contract this past year, that we were allowed to have nap time and full day pre-K, and we had cots. At that time, we didn't have cots, and I had students resting on the carpet that was also needed cleaning. Deep cleaning, but also knowing, as somebody that works with the families, that knowing their stories is very important, because you get to hear that, we have a mom that works the third shift and telling me that her daughter stayed up to make sure she got home safe, and therefore the daughter didn't sleep enough, so she's going to be tired. And it's very important to bring those stories to the table, and that's a big part of the reason why I'm running too in the 3rd District, because for a long time we were underrepresented. 10 years as having Arroyo as our representative, I heard many stories from families that try to meet with him about issues in the community, issues in special education, business owners being told to pay his consulting firm money. And this was frustrating, because he should be fighting for the issues that matter to families in the 3rd District, but instead he was busy trying to make us silence. And when we did have parents actually meet with him, he would turn on the TV instead of actually engage in regards to the issues at hand. And I think it all came full circle during the strike, because that was the time he was charged for bribery. And I was already fighting this system that tells us that teachers and people in the community don't have a say-so in the policies that affect us in communities, like fighting for those resources.
All right, now I'm going to get back to Rui Arroyo in the 3rd District and the reason you ran, but I just want to go back to something you said, just to clarify. So you, did the city agree that preschool kids could take a nap? Did they finally agree to that in the last negotiations, or are they still insisting that there should be no nap time?
No, we finally got that in the contract at the end of 2019.
Okay, in the strike that just went down in October. And did they resist it? Were they resisting that at the bargaining table, putting nap time into the contract? Were they continuing to insist that 3-year-olds should not get a nap?
That's why it took as long as it took. 11-day strike. They were resisting a lot of resources we were fighting for, a lot of demands that put those families and the students first.
That is really bizarre. Of all the things, I guess if you're in a negotiation, you're just going to say no to everything in the hopes that you can get a concession. So maybe they figured, all right, we'll say no to. We'll continue the policy of making 3-year-olds go without a nap in the hope that the teachers will swap that for lower pay. Did you follow what I just said on that one? That may be what their governing philosophy is, as opposed to saying, I think it's a good idea to allow 3-year-olds to have nap time. And so let's not make that part of the collective bargaining process. But whatever, maybe I'm just too idealistic. All right, so you're a school teacher. We're on the north. You're back in the north side now, or are you still on the south side?
No, I work in the district where I'm running. I work at Marvin Cameras. It's by Belmont and Central, and I work and live in Belmont Cragen. And what brought me to the north side is part of the system of injustice that we're fighting, because we, in the south side, I was always trying to push for resources and special education that my students needed. And I was, for example, I had students that came with a doctor's orders to get speech services. And I was told, oh, they're 3-year-olds, wait another year. And it was being pushed off. And I sometimes was sitting there learning how to be a speech pathologist, applying those into my classroom, and feeling, quite honestly, burnt out by the whole system. And I founded this program that I'm currently doing in the north side, blended classroom, where we have a co-teacher, special education, and a general education teacher working together to provide the resources the students need that come in with those recommendations by doctors and diagnosis.
And so what prompted you to run for office?
A lot of things. Standing up for injustices, which is something I did early on, being a daughter of immigrants from Puebla, Mexico, who I saw them constantly stand up against a system that told them that they didn't belong. And I was the first one out of my family to be born here, citizen here, and saw how much that made a difference in our lives, where they were living in fear, where my older brothers didn't continue their education in the sense that they felt that, even if we do get a degree, where could we get a job, And how much a piece of paper determines your life and where you're born. And fighting against that early on. I'm also someone who had to deal with the trauma of family separation due to deportation. My stepdad was deported when my little brother was 3. And seeing how he had to deal with separation anxiety and how that affected him and our family, it's why I continue to fight. And look, the 3rd district is the second largest, it's the 2nd district with the largest number of undocumented immigrants. And for a long time, we haven't been talking about that in Springfield from the representative, even the elected officials there now. They're not making that a priority. And that shows because in the last census count, we were undercounted. We were one of the districts that was mostly undercounted. And I think it also, as somebody who lives and works there, we saw that play out after Trump was elected. The school down my street, Hanson Park, had the lowest attendance rate in the history of the school after Trump was elected. And of course, if you don't have the resources in the community telling you, no, like, come to school, it's going to be safe, you're going to be fine, you will stay home if you're fearing deportation. And and I've always been a person to put my work into action. So I organized with other teachers to bring Know Your Rights canvases in the community. And we were flyering the community and talking to neighbors to make sure they know their rights in case ICE does come to their door. And that's one big reason why I'm running. Also, the fact that we're in the system that tells us teachers that we don't have the experience or the pull to determine policy in our classrooms or our communities, where they see, and that's essentially what I'm up against, somebody that tells the community that I'm inexperienced. And you see that play out nationally with teachers.
Well, one thing we've seen since Karen Lewis took over the Chicago Teachers Union is that teachers are becoming much more of a force politically in the city of Chicago. This is something I hadn't seen the 20 years that I've been in this city before Karen Lewis took charge of the Chicago Teachers Union. Several teachers ran in the last go-around. I can't remember offhand, other than Sue Garza, who got elected. She was a school counselor from the southeast side of Chicago. She's now the alderwoman of the 10th Ward. So do you think you're part of a larger movement of teachers becoming more politically, preemptive, if you will, or pretty politically active? Do you think you're part of a larger movement of teachers throughout the country?
Yes, definitely. I think I'm part of a larger movement where working class people are standing up against the system that tells us we don't belong. I'm someone who grew up poor. I'm someone who has experienced many of the issues that I hear of knocking on doors with the community members. And that experience alone is what makes me experience to be in the table to make these policies. Especially someone who works in the community, who talks to the families and hears these issues day in and day out. And I definitely am part of a larger movement of teachers, of working class individuals getting involved and standing up against this bigger system that's corrupt.
This system is corrupt. You're talking about the Chicago public school system or just the political system in general?
The political system in general, not only in the city and the state, but nationally.
Well, we'll talk about on the local level. Again, the representative of your district, Louis Arroyo, had to step down because he was indicted on charges having to do with bribery. He then had a say in naming his replacement, who is currently technically the incumbent by virtue of the fact that the ward committeeman voted to approve her to that seat. That would be Eva Dina Delgado, who was an executive with People's Gas. So she... Only in Chicago, Louis Arroyo got a hand in picking his successor, even though he was stepping down because he had been charged in this bribery scandal. And at the moment, I believe she has the support, correct me if I'm wrong, of Mayor Lori Lightfoot. And so, interesting little, tag team there, Lori Lightfoot and Louis Arroyo. You're up against like two powerful forces in the city of Chicago. Talk about that.
Yes, my focus is the community. Not, I'm a person who's been knocking on doors way before I decided to run, because we were canvassing as teachers during the strike to let the community know what we were fighting for, and that's nurses, social workers, counselors in our schools every day. And talking to the community is not really focused on who endorsed who, but they're looking to elect somebody that's actually running on the issues they care about. And that's what my focus is. I know the mayor has endorsed my opponent. And honestly, I was surprised. As someone, I saw the mayor, how she ran her campaign as a progressive, making sure we're accountable to the people. I question why she chose to endorse my opponent, who was handpicked by the previous state rep who was charged for bribery. And yeah, we would.
Well, my theory is, which you're free to disagree with vehemently, is that Mayor Lori Lightfoot has such disdain for the Chicago Teachers Union and Stacey Davis Gates that she saw, this lady, Nidia, is with the Chicago Teachers Union. She's like a mini Stacey Davis Gates. And this other woman is not. I'm going with the other woman. That's my theory. What do you think of my theory?
It could be it. Look, I'm a teacher, and she's a corporate lobbyist who has political ties, who was not only appointed to this seat, but before that, she was appointed by Rahm Emanuel to the police board. And maybe they're close friends. Who knows?
All right, Sergio Mims has entered the room. Sergio Mims has entered the room as my last guest. He's going to reveal who Joe Biden's running mate will be. I have not even conceded that Joe Biden will win. I know, Nidia's like, hey, come on, it's not over yet. Before we let you go out of the room, talk about the national race. How do you see your candidacy fitting in? Are you one of those candidates who is not endorsing anyone just because you got your own race to worry about, or do you have a candidate you favor?
Yes, we endorsed Bernie Sanders. He's a big reason why I got involved in politics as well. Back in 2015, I phone banked for him. I saw, again, he ran on the issues that matter to working families. And that's a big part of this campaign, too, making sure we have health care, making sure education is being resourced, making sure immigrant families are safe to live here, making sure we're anti-corruption, not funded by corporations. And that's a big part of my platform, too. I have endorsed Bernie Sanders, and I, pushing for him to win.
There was an editorial in the Sun-Times today that essentially said, Bernie, get out of the race. You're messing things up for Joey B. Just leave right now. Just depart the race. Stop running. What's your opinion about that?
I heard you, Ben, I think earlier what you mentioned, that Bernie needs to keep pushing. He needs to keep pushing for the issues that represent families and what we go through as the majority in this nation. And that's what I stand with.
All right, very good. Nydia Carranza, tell folks where they can get a hold of you, read more about you, website, whatever.
Yes, website is NydiaCarranza.org, NydiaCarranza.org. You could check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It's the handles are Nidia, 4, State Rep.
Very good. Thank you very much, Nidia. We got Sergio Mims on deck. We'll bring him on when we return.
Thank you.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
Hey, D.
Yeah?
Did I tell you that the Ben Joravsky Show is sponsored by Rattleback Records?
No.
Well, it is. Rattleback Records at 5405 North Clark Street is Andersonville's full-service record store. Hey, D. Did I tell you it was voted one of Chicago's best record stores in the 2019 Chicago Reader poll?
No.
Well, it was.
Wow.
Rattleback Records, 5405 North Clark Street. Used and new LPs and 45s. They got CDs, DVDs, books, gifts, and much more. For more information, contact them at rattlebackrecords.com. That's RATTLEBACK records.com.
It's Chicagoland's adult entertainment playground. It's the world-famous Admiral Theater, 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. The Admiral is homegrown from Chicago, and it's the most conveniently located club in all of the city. 15 minutes from the O'Hare Airport in downtown Chicago Loop. Voted Chicago's best strip club, the Admiral has showgirls galore and a variety of adult entertainment shows. The world-famous Admiral Theater, open every day from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. For events, showtime, and other information, visit AdmiralX.com. Must be 18 years of age or older to enter.
Bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. 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 Bullshit.
Ben, stop touching your face. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
I got the sanitizer on. Sergio Mims in the studio with me.
You know, when I came in, I wanted to lick the table and the microphones and everything.
Okay, that's not even funny, Rudy Gobert. D, you got an update before we bring Sergio on?
Well, I'm waiting. I would say anxiously awaiting, but not really. Donald Trump is going to be speaking here in a few minutes. It says here, Trump speaks at White House about pandemic. We're getting live updates, so I'm trying to pull them up as we go along here. So I may be interrupting you fellas as we're talking.
All right.
Yeah, he's going to, if I understand, he's going to declare a national emergency.
I would have, yeah, that's nice of him. That performance, the speech he gave the other day, Sergio, was perhaps the worst speech I've ever seen a president deliver in the face of a national emergency. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh, believe me, I saw it.
It was like a robot. And
no, it was worse than that.
It was worse than a robot?
It was worse than that. It was a robot that was malfunctioning. Right.
Yeah. By the way,
on top of that, he was sniffling and he couldn't breathe. And I said, I think he's got it. By the way, you know the president of Brazil has now been tested positive.
The president of Brazil? You sure the president or a high-ranking medical?
President.
Okay.
Okay. And he was with Trump last weekend.
Yeah.
Everybody's saying, why doesn't Trump get tested? Which he won't because he's a coward.
Well, no, time out. He has been tested. Wait, time out. I do not know that. Let me back up. This is a favorite topic here. Robert Peters, your state senator sitting in that chair. We had this conversation just the other day. I believe Donald Trump has been tested. He has, as the most powerful man in the country, has access to the test. But where he's really hurting us is he won't admit he got tested, and because he wants to pretend as though this is not a serious threat. And so today he's going to give this speech about it's a national emergency, and at the same time he's been undercutting the message because he doesn't want to admit it's a national emergency because he wants to try to say it was some kind of plot or hoax devised by his political opponents to bring down his presidency. So he's just a bundle of mixed messages that he's emitting at this very crucial time. And so one of which is to say, I have not, I'm going to continue to shake hands. I want to have rallies. I'm not going to be tested.
See, I don't think he's been tested. I don't.
So you actually believe he has the courage of his convictions?
I don't know. I think he's scared.
Oh.
I think he's a coward.
In other words, he doesn't want to. He wants to pretend as though he won't have coronavirus if he knows he has it.
Right. Now, by the way, let me get a couple things off this chest. I am not saying this is not a serious situation.
Okay.
Right. But the whole panic and fear mongering bothers me a lot. There was a report in the New York Times today or yesterday that says scientists predict that up to 1.7 million people in the United States might die. And I go like, wait a minute. That would mean that this situation is worse than the Spanish flu epidemic in 1918. It would be worse than that. And I was like, wait a minute, we're getting out of hand. So far, how many people have passed away? Something like 50 people. Mm-hmm. Okay? You know that over 100 people die every day in car accidents?
Yes.
By the way, you know there still are 20 to 30 cases of bubonic plague in the United States every year?
Yeah, your point?
My point is that 10 years ago, we had the swine flu. Over 1 million people died. Mm-hmm. 12,500 people, of that number, 12,500 were Americans. Mm-hmm. Okay? How come I didn't hear anything about that? Any panic about that?
Well, what I'm seeing happening in northern Italy, we didn't get a great view of what happened in China because obviously it's a communist country, so they limit the access of information that people have, but what reports we have.
Which reminds me of what happened at the University of Chicago yesterday.
And that was what?
Well, they have announced that the spring quarter, which starts in 2 weeks, essentially has been canceled. Students they're asking that students evacuate the campus. Those who can to leave the campus. Classes will be held online. Those who can't leave will have to be more or less confined to their dorms. This is the entire spring quarter, which means from the first week of April to mid-June of the graduation, which means they won't have a graduation ceremony anyway. And one of the main reasons for that is that there are a lot of Asian students at the University of Chicago. I should know, I'm 5 blocks down the street.
A Hyde Park resident his whole life. Very proud of that fact.
A lot of Chinese students at the University of Chicago, a lot of them. And almost all of them are Chinese nationals. And what I suspect happened is that Tuesday, the university said they had no problem, they weren't considering closing the schools, right? Wednesday night, after Trump made his speech, they decided to close the spring quarter. I think the lawyers got to them, without question. The lawyers got to the University of Chicago, the university lawyers, and told them, look, we have a lot of Asian students here, Chinese students at this school. You know, their home is in China. If a student gets sick, the parents are going to come after us and sue us for every dime we've got. And University of Chicago has a endowment of billions. I don't think it's as rich as Harvard, but it's billions. And one could escalate to more lawsuits. So there you go. But let me get back to my point.
Yeah.
My point. My point is that the fear mongering bothers me. We're all going to die. Oh my God, we're all going to die. Yeah. No, we're all going to die. Yeah. And okay, just calm down, right? Calm down, right? And talk about a personal point, right? Because I'm self-quarantined. Like everybody's making a huge sacrifice. They're taking a 2-week vacation. I'm going to quarantine myself. Okay, 4 years ago, this month, I went through the worst health crisis of my life. Okay, I'm not going to go into details about it, but basically, due to an unknown condition I inherited. Okay, I went through about 4 operations on my leg. I was in a hospital for 2 months. I was in a wheelchair for 7 months. I had to learn how to walk again. And only recently have I been walking without a cane. And it's taken me 4 years to get back to the point. I'll never really walk normally again. But where I am from where I was 4 years ago, doctors told me a year late after the whole thing, they said, we didn't think you were able to walk again. We didn't think you were able to do it. So I've been through hell and back, right? So when people are acting hysterical or when people are self-quarantined, and I said, look, nobody can predict what's going to happen. I said 100 people die in car accidents every day. You may think it's not going to happen to me. I'm a good driver. Well, not the drunk driver who comes in and rams into you and kills you, right? You risk your life the moment you step outside your house every day. You can get any kind. I never thought I had this condition. Never in a million, and it's a rare one. Very few people have it. I happen to have it. And it caused me all kinds of trouble. So what I am saying is that let's step back here.
I see the overall point you're making, and I'll say this to that. We discussed this yesterday, and Rick Morrissey, who's a columnist for the Sun-Times, a sports columnist, expressed some of the same opinions that you were expressing. And we were just going to have to agree to disagree in this one. I think caution in the face of this virus is necessary.
You should have caution all the time.
But I believe in this particular instance that the fears are warranted. And you know what? I hope when all is said and done that it looks as like we overreacted. I mean, I would hope that the worst fears that people have as to what may happen because of the virus don't occur. I hope that, okay? And that we say, well, I mean, there's two parts to this. If you say, oh, we overreacted, and then the next time it's like the sky is falling. But I do believe in this particular case, especially when I look at what's going on in Italy and what happened in China, that it's imperative that we take action right now to protect ourselves from this kind of onslaught.
Yeah, but see, for example.
And I'll give you another example closer to home. One that, wait, time out. Did you have an upbreaking?
Oh, we got Trump. He's speaking right now.
All right.
You want to listen to it?
Sure. Let's hear what Donnie has to
Say
say.
a few words, wherever you may be. Good.
Oh, he's grabbing some other fella to talk.
When we got the call yesterday from the White House, we were eager to do our part to help serve the country. And given what we're facing, that's certainly important to do. We should all be doing that. So we've been asked to make portions of our parking lot available in select locations in the beginning and scaling over time as supply increases so that people can experience the drive-through experience that the president described. We'll stay involved and do everything we can from a supply chain point of view to be of assistance. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it very much. I'll just stay right over here. And Richard, if you could come up, please. Richard.
All right, he's getting people over there. When Trump starts to speak more, I'll...
Yeah, very good. But anyway, the point I was going to make was that 1995, when we had that terrible heat wave, and so many people died. And
there's a great documentary about that, Cooked.
Yes, and it's based on a book. I forget the name of the book, but...
I think the book is called Cooked.
Yeah, Kleinberg. Anyway, so the point is that as a city... we looked the other way, and I don't know how many hundreds of people. That was minuscule as to what the worst predictions from this are, and I just think we should have learned from that. And I did appreciate the fact when I was listening to was J.B. Pritzker talking about the threat we have, and he was saying he was addressing the issues that you're raising. He said there's some people who are strong and probably will not be affected by this.
Mm-hmm.
But we as a society, we should have to be looking for people who are the most vulnerable. And I thought that was a very appropriate message.
But it should be all the time.
Well,
it doesn't have to be an incident like this.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other thing is
I agree
that
with you on that point.
How do we know that this has been around for... You know the numbers because people are being tested. Not the United States, but people are being tested, right?
Well, apparently Trump's now announcing that we're finally going to have some tests in the United States.
Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
So how do we know that this has not been around for the last 10 years? How do now all of a sudden it's an issue?
All right.
Like I said before, I am not saying this is not a serious situation. I am not saying that people should not be concerned. Of course they should. But the whole panic, fear mongering, cable news 24 hours a day now, MSNBC. It was about the election. Does anybody remember Bernie Sanders? I mean, everything has been forgotten.
All right, that's a perfect transitory point because this is really what I wanted to talk to you about. Sergio's been telling me for a long time he's going to predict who Joe Biden's running mate would be, that Joe Biden's going to make an announcement, and
Well, I didn't say he's going to make an announcement, but I didn't say he was
or
going
you're
to be.
predicted. All right. I again repeat what I've been saying all day. We have an election on Tuesday. Bernie is on the ballot. I plan personally to vote for Bernie Sanders, and I hope Bernie Sanders continues in the race to push Joe Biden to the left. That's my personal preference, even though I basically agree with you, Ann Monroe, and everybody else who comes to this studio, that Joe Biden will be the nominee.
Yeah,
that
right.
the path to victory is there for Joe Biden, largely because he has won the lion's share of the black vote, which you predicted, by the way, a year ago.
But here's the thing about Bernie Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
He's the leader of a movement, not a coalition. Movements have a ceiling, and he hit his ceiling. In order to win, like Obama, or as Biden is evidently doing, you need a coalition of people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Trump also has a movement, and he lucked out by actually getting elected because he ran against the worst candidate that the Democrats could have come up with. And I said this before, and I've said this again. 2016, Bernie could have beat him. Bernie could have beat him. And I make
You did say that. You've been saying that for
I've been saying
2
it a long
years,
time.
yeah.
Biden would have cleaned his clock in 2016. Not Hillary Clinton. She had. Never mind. We're not getting that.
Yeah,
anymore.
let's not relitigate.
Okay, we're not
Hillary.
going to relitigate that. Okay, so this is my prediction. Biden's vice presidential candidate. Okay. Be ready. Okay, get ready to get blown out of your seat. All right.
Okay, here we go.
Suspense.
I say sarcastically. I predict his vice presidential candidate will be Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
What? Why do you say that?
Because she fits all the boxes, right?
All right. Wow, that's not where I thought you were going to be going. I thought you were going to say Kamala.
No, God, no, not Kamala.
Okay.
He wants to get the black vote, right?
Yeah.
Kamala will make sure he'll lose it.
Sergio's always been a big fan of Kamala Harris. He's been making fun of her since last summer. All right, so why do you say Governor Whitmer?
Okay, moderate, woman, Midwestern state.
Mm-hmm.
She has been really huge supporter of Biden since the very beginning. She made a comment 2 weeks ago that this road to the Oval Office goes through Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And she has no baggage from what I can see. She's not an ex-prosecutor like Kamala Harris. She's experienced, governor of Michigan. Who was the previous governor of Michigan?
It was
Gilsum? It's
I'm
with a G.
blanking on her. I could see your name. Jennifer.
Grissom.
Nah. Frank, where are you when we need you?
Oh.
I'm pulling it up now.
Oh, yeah. I remember. I see her face right
I see her face, too.
Yeah.
It starts with a G.
Yeah, last name starts with the first name, Jennifer, but go ahead.
Right.
Granholm? Is that it?
Granholm, something like that.
Oh, come on. Give me the ball.
If she... Okay.
5 minutes. But...
Go ahead, Sergio.
But that's my prediction. Okay, it's not exciting.
Yeah, it's not exciting at all. I was really hoping it was going to be exciting.
No, but it's safe.
See, that's the problem with the Dems, Sergio, the safe thing. Like, well, I guess in the face of...
Look, it's not going to be Kamala, and it's not going to be Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams needs to win a race, okay?
Yeah, but...
She needs to win a race.
Listen, here's my issue. It's so safe. Now, it's true. It's a woman as opposed to Hillary Clinton took Tim Kaine. I guess she couldn't have taken a woman either. But it just strikes me of the same.
No. But Hillary
cut from the same cloth.
Hillary Clinton had a problem that she had to pick somebody who was even less exciting than she was.
Because he didn't want to be over. That reminds me of the story that Delmarie Cobb told about Mike Dukakis in 1988. We were talking about Jesse Jackson campaign. Delmarie worked for Jesse Jackson in the 88 campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesse's supporters really wanted Jesse to be the vice presidential choice for Mike Dukakis. Could you imagine if Dukakis had picked Jesse Jackson, how overshadowed he would have been by Jesse Jackson's I mean, everybody.
Yeah, Dukakis would have probably lost 49 states.
Well, Del Marie disagrees with you on that point. She thinks they would have won with Jesse Jackson. I don't know. That's relitigating something from 40 years, 30 years ago. I'm. Listen, right now the world looks so differently politically than it did a week ago because of the coronavirus, because of Donald Trump's mishandling of it, the markets tanking.
But that's the thing. Things change. In politics, things change overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, 3 weeks ago, Biden was dead. 3 weeks ago, he was dead in the water. Everybody was losing their mind because it looked like Bernie Sanders was going to be the Democratic candidate.
No, but actually, I thought that the centrists would coalesce behind Michael Bloomberg, and because he had all the money, and then I realized he was one. It was too much baggage for him to sell, even to centrist Democrats.
Right.
And two, the black vote. And let's just talk about that. You called it a year ago. The black vote saved Joe Biden. And we had, I don't want to give away too much of our interview yesterday. We took the deep dive with the T.B. Buchanan and David Seaton yesterday. And we're going to air it this weekend, talking about this in particular. But they were in agreement. It was that connection to Obama. Once again, you said that Michelle Obama would be the only black candidate that black people would support in this election.
I said that.
Yes. And so that Obama connection was the absolute key. I think that's unavoidable right now.
That's part of it. There's a large part of it, but that's not the only reason.
In terms of the black vote?
Yeah. The only reason is that, and I've said this 1,000 times on your show before, black voters are like any other voters. They're like any other voters. We got to go with a winner. Who's the person who's most like... There was a brief flirtation with Bloomberg, but all is said and done, they look at these candidates, and I can't speak for 40 million black people. Okay?
It's a lot of people to speak for.
I
Sergio.
cannot do that.
Yeah.
Right? Let's make that clear.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So, but basically, people look at a candidate and say, okay, he's the guy. He's not perfect, Biden. Believe me, he's not perfect, right? But the main thing is to get Trump out of office. That is the main thing. It's not Bernie's time now. It's not.
Yeah. Well, I'm still going to vote for him on Tuesday just to send a message. All right, Sergio Mims in the studio. He is the co-founder of the Black Harvest Film Festival. Man knows more about movies than anyone alive. People are locked in, for better or for worse, for a while. Not going out. There's no concerts to go to, no sporting events to go to. So Sergio's going to tell you what movies you should watch when we return. Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Mr. Joravsky, take us to the weekend.
Sergio Mims in the studio, Black Harvest Film Festival. He's going to give us some recommendations.
Before I do that,
nothing. Okay, go ahead.
Let me tell you one thing that happened in Rwanda. There has been one case of the virus, and you know why? Because everybody, the government passed a rule. Everybody who's going on a bus or a train or any large place have to wash their hands. and they have sinks everywhere. They put up sinks everywhere, so everybody washes their hands. There's not one case of Rwanda.
Well, we'll see how long that lasts. All right, Sergio. I'm a little less.
You just wash your hands on
optimistic.
general principle anyway.
Well, yeah, you don't need to tell me that. I err on that. I was trying to remember the name of the Jack Nicholson movie. From
As Good as It Gets.
Oh, well, it's good.
Wow,
as it
you didn't
gets.
even finish it.
We've been working
talking about it earlier.
Yeah, because
Oh.
he's an obsessive germaholic, and I share some germaphobe. I share some of those traits. So I was washing my hands long before it was fashionable. All right, movies to recommend. We were going to do a whole segment of this. We're probably going to come back and do a whole segment of it. And Danielle, who was going to join us, was unable to make it. So we're going to postpone and do it another time. But just give me some of the recommendations.
Just to let people know that what we're going through right now is not a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A lot of people are bringing up the movie Contagion.
Yeah.
Okay. I got some movies that are even older that deal with the same idea. What about Cassandra Crossing? Remember Cassandra Crossing?
Vaguely. I saw that back in the day. When was that? When did that movie?
1977.
Oh, God, yeah.
With Richard Harris and Sophia Loren and O.J. Simpson.
O.J.
And
Yeah.
Burt Lancaster.
Oh, my God.
And Martin Sheen and Ava Gardner about this train in which there's this plague on the train and they got to stop the train. So they, in Europe, they move the train, they reroute the train to this bridge in Poland that hasn't been used since the war, which is going to collapse and kill everybody. That's their answer. So when they find this out, they got to stop the train. You know.
I saw that. Is it worth watching?
Oh yeah, I love it. It's kitschy as hell.
Yeah. All right, folks. There you go. You're
Okay.
locked in. Watch that movie.
Here's another one, 1965, The Satan Bug, John Sturges' movie.
Never saw that movie. I'm writing that down.
About a plague, a bug that is developed by the U.S. government and is stolen and by a mad millionaire who wants to infect the entire world, and they got to find it and stop him before he lets it out into the world.
Does that hold up after all these years?
Yeah, it sure does. And that came on 65. Don't forget Andromeda Strain.
Oh, I saw that one, yeah.
These sound like the most random movies. Are people able to find these on Netflix and Amazon?
Oh,
and
they
stuff like
should.
That? All right, good. Check them out.
There's Andromeda Strain, of course.
Michael
Crichton. And go back to 1950. What about Panic in the Streets? Elia Kazan's movie.
Oh, yeah, panicking. What were they panicking about?
Because Jack Palance is a carrier of bubonic plague. And Richard Widmark's got the guy who's got to track him down and find him before he infects. It takes place in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Before it affects New Orleans, and then it infects the state, and then the country. And that was 1950. And then, of course, there is the greatest black movie ever made.
And that is?
Three the Hard Way.
Oh, yeah.
Where this, listen to this premise.
Yeah, he loves this movie, man.
About this
Yeah.
crazy multi-millionaire white supremacist who has come up with this plan to create this bug which will kill all the black people in the United States, but leave white people free, right?
Yeah, somehow the bug can distinguish between one and the other.
Right. You see? And it's like, wow, this is like Donald Trump and Stephen Miller meets Flint, Michigan, and everything is all together, and you got Jim Brown, Fred Williamson, and Jim Kelly who go out to stop this plan. Of course, Jim Brown and Fred Williamson somehow have drifted off into...
Fred Williamson, too? Wait,
Yeah,
in
I've
Trump
heard-
land?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
I've heard it.
The
yeah.
Hammer?
Yeah, the Hammer has drifted off into...
I did not know that. Into
Yeah.
Trump land.
Yeah.
Jim Brown is pretty
I
much
don't know
out
what happened
there.
to Jim Brown. I don't know what
Well,
happened.
he's
I
about
don't know.
80-something years old.
Yeah, he's in his 80s,
you know.
maybe his...
Who knows? Oh,
Dementia, I don't
and by the way, he supported Nixon in 72. These things I remember. I remember Jim Brown.
He did? I don't remember that.
Well, you know, there was a number of black celebrities who supported Nixon in 72.
Well, Sammy Davis Jr. did.
Sammy Davis, I love Sammy Davis Jr. I love him so much. I forgave him for that. And his support for Nixon, I don't know how strong it was. He hugged Nixon. Do you remember him hugging
Yeah,
Nixon?
I remember.
And so, yeah, Sammy Davis Jr., Wilt Chamberlain, the great basketball player, supported Richard Nixon. Jim Brown supported Richard Nixon. It was just rich black people supported Richard Nixon. I guess we shouldn't be surprised. So anyway, yeah, I've tried to find 3 the hard way. I've never seen it. You've been extolling its virtues.
It's got to be on Netflix or someplace. You can find it someplace.
I'll look again, but the last time I looked, I couldn't find it.
I can tell you that I know that my choice of vice president candidate was maybe uninspiring.
No, totally uninspiring. I was expecting something a lot more glorious.
But I don't see anybody else. Right now at this point, I don't see who he can get.
Wait, let's go back to the movies because I want to finish the movies. So these are all good deep dives. I'm probably going to...
Oh, you want political movies?
Yeah, let's go to political movies.
Okay.
We have an election on Tuesday.
Okay, what about Nixon? Great film. Great film.
Oliver Stone.
Right. What about All the Premises of Vice and Consent? Really great film.
Yeah, I saw that one
What
too.
about, obvious one, what about The Candidate?
Robert Redford,
Right.
1969 or 70.
Here's one people tend to forget. What about Distinguished Gentleman?
I don't remember that one at all.
Eddie Murphy.
Oh, Eddie Murphy. Yeah.
He plays a con man who gets elected to Congress. Really, look at that movie today. It really holds up.
You know what?
Even more than ever.
I'm writing that down because you could probably watch that one on the...
Right.
Now, what's your...
What about Bullwolf?
Oh, Steve Martin and...
No. Warren Beatty.
Oh, Warren Beatty. That's right. Warren Beatty. He ends up running for Senate. Is that?
Yeah, he's running for the Senate.
Yeah,
and he decides to tell the truth.
Right. He's going to only tell the truth. I remember seeing that movie. It was kind of funny.
Right.
It was okay.
What about? Let me think. What other political?
What was the
movies?
one I was thinking of? Bowfinger. That's the one I was thinking of. The Steve Martin.
No, that's
way.
about the movie.
Nothing, right.
Right.
Yeah, the movie industry. All right. What is your general thoughts? I was having this conversation with Danielle a little not long ago about Chinatown. All these years later. That was one of the most influential movies to me when I was in my late teens or early 20s in terms of how cynical it was in its attitude toward how politics works.
Yeah,
in this
it's
country.
a political. You can make the argument it's a political movie.
It's very
much so,
political, yeah.
Right?
I mean, all the in this movie, all the decisions that are being made, supposedly in the public interest, in terms of where reservoirs are built or dams are built or where water goes, they're acting as though they're in the public interest, but in reality, there's private interests that'll benefit from them, and it's those private interests that are controlling the public decisions.
Or like Lincoln Yards.
Yes, some things never change, Sergio, and so. When I saw that movie way back when, it had a big impact on me, but I was too young to really understand it. And as time has gone on, I've become to appreciate it more and more, how on target it is. At the same time, I struggle with this. It's Roman Polanski's movie. And Roman Polanski...
You know what? I made a statement. A friend of mine, we talk about this all the time. If you... are going to restrict yourself to watching, say, movies made by people or with people who have done really objectionable things, you probably wouldn't see any movies. Look at Charlie Chaplin. You look at Charlie Chaplin's private life, which was, I mean, right now Charlie Chaplin would probably be in prison. It was scandalous. Scandalous. I mean, what he did in his life. Yet, I think last week I was looking at Martin Times. Why? Because it's a great film. Will I stop watching Miramax movies? Ones that I like? I probably still will, even though
Harvey Weinstein
was absolute scum. If you read what he did, it was really sickening, right?
I have to tell you this. I agree with you that great movies are great movies, and you, as best you can, you got to put aside the people who did them. Same thing with great books. When I see Miramax on a screen of a movie, it's hard at that moment because I'm like, I can't believe I like this movie so much. Harvey Weinstein had something to do with it. I'm just going to have to forget that and move on. And so that's, what movie did I just see where so it was some Quentin Tarantino movie where you see Miramax. I think, was it Jackie Brown, which I've seen.
Yeah, that's it.
552. Yeah,
most of his early pictures were from Miramax.
I think
co-produced by Miramax.
Yeah, Django may have been the first one that's not Miramax? I can't remember offhand.
I think Miramax has some involvement.
It's, all right. Well, okay.
They did it definitely with Inglourious Basterds. It was definitely co-produced by Miramax.
Okay. So these are two movies that I've watched many times. I enjoy them. Jackie Brown's one of my favorite movies of all time. So I got to swallow it. I was like, do I just drop this and pretend I didn't like it? I mean, that's fake, phony too, so.
Or look at the thing with Woody Allen. You heard the story about he's going to come up with his autobiography called Apropos About Nothing.
Yeah.
And the publishing company dropped it because people there protested. My answer to that is it was ridiculous to ban the book. This is censorship. You don't like him, don't read the book. Don't buy it. It's that simple. Now, the book actually is still going to be published in the United States.
Who's going to publish it? I missed this part of
There's
it.
a French publisher that's going to publish it in France, and they have some sort of American subsidiary. It's a small publishing group. They're going to release the book next month in the United States. But my answer is that, look, you don't have to read the book. You know what he's going to do in it. He's probably going to justify everything he's done. You know that going in. So my answer is that you don't like him, don't read the book. Simply don't read the book.
All right, and finally, we're going to close with this. Movies that'll make you laugh.
Okay, you forced me into this. One of the funniest, here we go, talking about, will you watch a movie with somebody in it, okay? One of the funniest movies ever made, to me, kills me every time, is Let's Do It Again.
Let's Do It Again.
That movie cracks me up every single time. Starring Sidney Poitier and Bill Cosby.
My God, how did I miss that one? When did that come out?
Came out 1974. It was like the follow-up to Uptown Saturday Night.
I saw that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is my wheelhouse. I saw the first one, but not the second one.
Oh, you missed the second one.
Is the second one actually better than the first one?
Oh, yeah, I think it is. I think it's funny.
All right, here we go.
It's not a sequel. It's a follow-up. It's they play kind of similar characters, but it's a completely different story. But Bill Cosby is in it.
Yeah, no, I struggle with that one big time because I can't rewrite history, Sergio. When I was in junior high, I thought he was right there. I loved all the kids would be watching those Bill Cosby specials, and he had the cartoons, and he was on I Spy. And I'm not going to rewrite history.
No,
I mean,
personally, I was listening to a Dolomite. I was listening to Rudy Ray Moore.
Yeah, well, okay, but that was after I'm talking about. I know I did not literally know you back then, but I can bet you anything back in about 1968 or 69, young Sergio Mims was a Bill Cosby fan. You did not discover Dolomite.
No,
until
that's true. I was a Bill Cosby. I saw Bill Cosby, funny guy, and then I heard Rudy Ray Moore. Then I heard Red Fox Party Records. Then I heard Blowfly. Then I said, wait a minute, there's a whole subgenre of black comics here, which I gravitate to.
Yeah.
And so and then Richard Pryor came, and then when Richard Pryor found his voice.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, there's no going back.
By the way, who just quoted Richard Pryor? It was very funny. He was talking about the halls of justice. And he goes, in the halls of justice, if you ever noticed, it's just us.
Yeah, right. That's the Richard Pryor line,
yeah,
just
Richard
us.
Pryor, right. All right, we've run out of time. Sergio Mims is his name. A Black Harvest Film Festival, co-founder every August, the greatest film festival in the city of Chicago, my humble opinion.
Which, as of today, will still be going on.
Well, we'll see what the world looks like in June. But yeah, I hope very much it will be there in August. I also want to thank Nydia Carranza, our guest earlier in the day, and Rummana Hussain, and of course, the man, the myth, the legend, who makes it all happen. And as Sergio can tell you, back home in Alton, they call him White Lightning. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. We'll see you somehow or other on Tuesday, everybody.
And remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows and Benny J bonus interviews at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Downloaders, we live stream this program. It's true. Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel. Yeah, we're back on YouTube, guys. We were on Facebook Live yesterday. Still not sure what happened, but hey, we're back. And check out this weekend's Benny J bonus interviews. We got a lot in store for you here, and be safe, people.
too much in the weeds here. I want to go back. I want to go. One second, please. I just want to go back to the issue that we started with.